Love doesn't always whisper, it roars. Sometimes it comes dressed in red lipstick and bulletproof confidence. Sometimes it tastes like danger, and sometimes it burns like war. For some, love is peace. For others, it's a battlefield. In All the Queen's Men, love is the most dangerous weapon of all. And Madame DeVille knows exactly how to use it. When you step into her world, you don't just fall in love, you fall into a storm. Every glance has meaning. Every smile hides a threat. And every embrace could be your last. Because in this world, danger isn't the opposite of love. It is love. Madame DeVille is not the kind of woman you meet twice. When she walks into a room, the air changes. It's not her beauty that commands attention. It's the energy around her. Like electricity waiting to strike. People don't just look at her, they feel her. She carries the kind of power that makes you want to stand closer, even when you know it could burn you. She understands something most people don't. Fear and love live in the same house. The same eyes that can make you feel safe can also make you tremble. And Madame, she knows how to balance both with a perfect smile. She built her empire from the ground up. Not with softness, but with strategy. Every decision she makes is a move in a bigger game. Her love isn't about romance. It's about control. It's about knowing who has the upper hand when hearts are on the line. She's not looking for flowers or promises, she's looking for power that matches hers. The kind of connection that makes your pulse race and your mind question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, because in her world, love is never gentle. It's fierce, it's raw, and it demands respect. There's something magnetic about danger. It pulls you in, even when every part of your body is screaming to run. Madame understands that better than anyone. She knows that sometimes people mistake fear for passion, and maybe that's why they can't stay away from her. She doesn't beg for love, she earns it through presence, through strength. When she looks at someone, it's like she's reading their soul, finding the weakness they try to hide. And when she loves, she doesn't give halfway. She gives all of it, the chaos, the fire, the unpredictability, because she believes love should feel alive, even if it hurts. Every moment around her feels like standing too close to a flame. The people in her life, men who crave her attention, enemies who crave her downfall, are caught in the same trap. They want to possess her, but you can't own a storm. You can only survive it. That's the beauty and danger of Madame DeVille. She doesn't fall in love. She declares war. And if you find yourself in her heart, you better be ready to fight for your place. Because in her world, love doesn't heal, it tests you. It demands blood, loyalty, and silence. But behind the sharpness, behind the perfectly crafted armor, there's a heart that once believed in something softer. Before the crown, before the chaos, there was a woman who just wanted to be seen, not as a queen, not as a threat, but as someone worth loving without fear. That part of her still exists, hidden deep, waiting for someone brave enough to find it. Yet she knows the truth too well. In her world, softness is weakness, and weakness is death. So she buries it under diamonds, ambition, and the kind of love that cuts deeper than any blade. Because for Madame DeVille, danger isn't something to avoid, it's something to love. It's the spark that keeps her alive. It's the language she speaks when words fail. It's her way of saying, if you want me, you'll have to bleed for me. And maybe that's what makes her unforgettable. Maybe that's why people can't stop watching her fall, rise, and rule again. Because deep down, everyone wants to believe that love, no matter how twisted, no matter how painful, can still be beautiful if it burns bright enough. Power has a rhythm, and Madame DeVille dances to it better than anyone. It's not about the sound of her heels clicking on marble floors or the promised sharpness of her words. It's about the way she moves through silence. She doesn't need to raise her voice. Her presence alone speaks louder than any threat. The men around her know it too. They lean in when she talks, not because they want to, but because they have to. She pulls them in like gravity. Every gesture, every glance, every pause, it's all deliberate. Because Madame understands something that most people never learn. Love and control are twins wearing different faces. One makes you stay, the other makes you surrender. To her, danger is not a warning, it's a connection. The tension before a betrayal, the heartbeat before a confession, the stillness before a gunshot, those are the moments where she feels most alive. It's not about survival anymore. It's about emotion that refuses to die quietly. She's drawn to chaos because it reminds her that she's still human. The world taught her to be untouchable, but in the heat of danger, she finds a strange kind of intimacy. It's the closeness of knowing someone could destroy you, and still letting them close enough to try. That's not weakness, that's trust born from war. Every man who comes near Madame thinks he's strong enough to handle her fire. They think they can tame her, change her, or save her. But Madame isn't a woman to be saved. She's a force to be met. And when they realize that, it's already too late. She doesn't break hearts the way people expect. She teaches them lessons they never recover from. She shows them that love can be both a weapon and a wound. That, sometimes, affection comes with a blade hidden behind a smile. And even when she walks away, a part of them stays chained to her memory, still hearing her voice in the dark, whispering promises that were never meant to be kept. Her relationships are never about romance, they're about reflection. Each man is a mirror, showing her the parts of herself she tries to bury. The protector, the manipulator, the dreamer, the destroyer, all of them live inside her. And when she sees herself through their eyes, she remembers why she built her empire in the first place. Power isn't just about control, it's about safety. In her past, love made her vulnerable. It left bruises that didn't fade. So now, she rewrites the rules. She doesn't wait to be loved. She decides who gets to love her and how much it'll cost. But even queens get lonely. There are nights when the crown feels heavy, when silence echoes too loud. She sits in her grand home, surrounded by gold, success, and shadows, wondering if power can ever replace peace. The city outside keeps moving, cars, lights, sirens, but inside, time stands still. Her reflection stares back at her, reminding her that being untouchable also means being alone. It's the price she pays for being unstoppable, because when you become the danger, no one dares to hold you. And yet, a part of her still wants to be held just once. Without calculation, without control, without fear. Still, Madame knows she can't go back. The world she rules is built on loyalty and fear. If she lets her guard down, even for a moment, the wolves will circle. So, she sharpens her edges again, and hides her softness behind that fearless smile. The woman who once wanted love now only trusts war. Because war doesn't lie. It doesn't pretend. It takes everything from you. But at least it tells the truth. And that truth, as brutal as it is, feels more honest than love ever did. In the chaos of her world, every fight, every betrayal, every whispered threat, it all becomes her language. She doesn't speak love with flowers or soft words. She speaks it with loyalty tested through fire. She speaks it through eyes that never flinch, through hearts that bleed together and still keep beating. And maybe that's why people can't look away from her story. Because somewhere deep down, we all understand that love and danger aren't opposites. They're the same energy, just pointed in different directions. And Madame DeVille, she doesn't just understand that truth, she lives it. Every day, every breath, every heartbreak. Because for her, love was never meant to be safe. It was meant to be felt. And in her world, feeling something that real, that powerful, that close to destruction, is the only way to know you're still alive. There's a silence that follows power. It's not peace, it's the kind of silence that comes before thunder. Madame DeVille lives in that silence. Every day, she walks the line between affection and destruction. To her, love isn't a promise, it's a strategy. She doesn't fall in love by accident. She wages it like a war. Every look, every word, every touch is a move on the battlefield. And when she loves, she doesn't just give herself, she takes something back. Because in her world, love without power is just surrender. And Madame DeVille has surrendered enough for a lifetime. She's learned that people don't always fight to win. Sometimes they fight to be seen. That's what makes her dangerous. She understands the emotions behind the attack. When someone tries to hurt her, she sees the love hiding underneath. When someone betrays her, she feels the fear that caused it. That's why she never reacts with weakness. She turns pain into calculation, heartbreak into armor. Every wound becomes a lesson. Every betrayal, a blueprint for control. And yet, somewhere beneath that unshakable strength, there's a flicker of something she can't kill, the memory of what it felt like to love without defense. Madame's world runs on loyalty, but loyalty is fragile when love gets involved. The people closest to her don't just serve her, they orbit her, caught between devotion and desire. They want to protect her, but they also want to possess her. And that's where the war begins, not on the streets, but in the heart. When love turns into power, every gesture becomes a negotiation. Every act of kindness feels like a test. The line between lover and enemy disappears. She can feel it in every conversation, the hesitation, the fear, the need to prove something. No one ever says I love you in her world. They say, I'll fight for you. And she believes them, even when she knows that fighting for her usually means dying for her. To war has a strange beauty. When you've lived long enough inside it, it sharpens the senses, makes every emotion burn brighter. Madame doesn't chase chaos for the thrill, she chases it for the truth. War strips people bare. It shows who they really are. And in that rawness, she finds something real. When bullets fly, masks fall off. When tempers rise, lies crumble. And for a moment, she feels closer to honesty than she ever does in peace. Because peace is full of pretending, of false smiles and fragile promises. War, on the other hand, demands truth. It may destroy everything, but at least it never hides what it is. There are nights when she remembers the ones who stood beside her and fell. Not just men who fought for her empire, but those who fought for her heart. Some died for her, others walked away, but all left pieces of themselves in her story. Their names echo in her silence. Their faces visit her in dreams. Sometimes she wonders if she ever really loved them, or if she only loved the way they looked at her, like she was both their salvation and their punishment. Because that's what love feels like for her now. A battle no one wins, only survives. Still, she doesn't stop. She can't. The war is the only thing that keeps her alive. When she commands her world, when she gives orders, when she faces her enemies, there's a part of her that feels unstoppable. That rush, that fire, that absolute control, it fills the space where love used to live. And maybe that's the secret she never admit. She doesn't crave affection anymore. She craves resistance. She wants someone who can fight her and still stay. Someone who can take her anger, her power, her darkness and not run. Because only in conflict does she feel connected. Only in danger does she feel known. People call her cold, but that's because they mistake calm for emptiness. She feels everything too deeply, that's the problem. Every betrayal cuts through her skin. Every lie echoes in her chest. But she learned long ago that emotion doesn't belong on the surface. It belongs in the fight. So, she bleeds quietly, loves violently, and forgives slowly. Her heart is a weapon, and she wields it like one. To love her is to go to war, and most people don't survive it. But the few who do, they understand her better than anyone else ever could. Because for Madame DeVille, war isn't just survival, it's intimacy. It's the only way she knows how to touch someone without losing herself. It's not cruelty. It's connection. It's her way of saying, I see you. I trust you enough to fight you. And that, in her world, is the closest thing to love that exists. When she stands before the mirror, crown resting perfectly on her head, eyes steady and unblinking, she doesn't see a monster. She sees a woman who refused to die quietly. A woman who turned her pain into empire, her fear into flame. She doesn't need peace to feel whole. She just needs the war to keep burning. Because in that fire, she feels alive. And in that battle, she finally understands the truth she's always lived by. Love and war were never meant to be enemies. They were always the same story told with different weapons. There comes a point when even the strongest woman looks at her reflection and wonders if the crown is made of gold or guilt. Madame DeVille has reached that point more times than she ever admit. The nights are long, and the city never truly sleeps. Behind the glass walls of her empire, she stands alone, surrounded by silence that hums like an old wound. The wars have been fought, the enemies buried, the lovers gone. But the question remains, did she win, or did she simply survive? Power fills her hands, but her heart feels heavier with every victory, because power can protect you from the world, but it can't protect you from yourself. Madame learned long ago that survival has a cost. You don't just lose people, you lose pieces of yourself. Every time she chose strength over softness, she buried a little more of the woman she used to be. The girl who once believed love could heal anything is gone now, replaced by a queen who knows that love heals nothing without pain. Her armor shines, her empire thrives, but when the lights go out, she can feel the ghosts of her choices breathing beside her. They don't haunt her out of cruelty. They haunt her because they never stopped loving her, even when she became the kind of woman who couldn't love them back. In her solitude, Madame begins to see love differently, not as something to win, not as something to control, but as something that simply exists, even in the ruins. The men who fought her, the ones who tried to save her, even the ones who betrayed her, they all loved her in their own broken way. And maybe that's what makes love dangerous. It doesn't care who deserves it. It doesn't follow rules or boundaries. It burns through everyone, leaving ashes where certainty used to be. She finally understands that danger was never her enemy. It was her mirror. Every threat, every loss, every scar, it all reflected who she truly was, someone who loved too deeply to ever love safely. There's beauty in that realization, though it's a quiet one. She begins to see the war not as destruction, but as transformation. The woman she is now didn't emerge from PCI, was born from chaos. Every heartbreak became her teacher, every betrayal her sculptor. The pain didn't destroy her, it designed her. And maybe that's what people never understand about women like Madame. They see the power, the control, the sharp edges, but they don't see the softness that built it. They don't see the love that had to be buried to make room for survival. Her strength was never about dominance. It was about endurance. It was about staying whole in a world that wanted to break her apart piece by piece. But even storms grow tired. There's a quiet in Madame's soul now, the kind that comes when you've finally made peace with the noise. She doesn't crave the same wars anymore. The enemies don't excite her, and the lovers don't impress her. She's seen too much to be fooled by beauty or charm. What she wants now isn't control, it's understanding. Someone who doesn't fear her power but sees the tenderness she hides behind it. Someone who knows that her fire isn't meant to burn, it's meant to warm. Because even the fiercest queen dreams of being touched without being tested. One evening, she stands by the window of her penthouse, watching the city lights flicker like memories. She thinks about the people who came and went, about the hearts she broke and the ones that broke her back. The wind carries the faint sounds of the city laughter, sirens, life. For the first time, she lets the silence settle. No guards, no deals, no weapons, just her and the night. And in that stillness, she feels something she hasn't felt in years: peace. Not the kind that means surrender, but the kind that means acceptance. The kind that says, you fought enough, you loved enough, you became enough. Maybe danger was always her way of loving because it was the only language she was ever taught. But now, she realizes she can rewrite that story. She can teach herself a new language, one that doesn't start with fear or end with loss. It won't be easy. It never is. But for the first time, she's ready. Ready to stop fighting ghosts and start forgiving them. Ready to look at her reflection and see not a survivor, but a woman who dared to love in a world that tried to make her hard. So when the sun finally rises, and the light spills across her floor, she doesn't turn away. She lets it touch her face. The same woman who once found comfort in shadows now stands unafraid in the warmth. Her eyes still carry the fire of every war she's fought. But her smile's small, quiet, real, belongs to someone who has finally made peace with her storms. Because Madame DeVille doesn't just rule her world anymore. She understands it. And in that understanding, she finds her truest power. Love and danger, they were never separate stories. They were chapters of the same book, one written in blood, the other in forgiveness. And as she closes that book and looks toward whatever comes next, she finally knows that her legacy isn't the war she fought, it's the fire she carried on, the love that refused to die inside it.